Yo, Merry Christmas. Let's talk about games. My name's Alpha, and in this video I'm going to show you every game I played for the first time in 2025, whether it's a new release or not. It's going to be in order from the worst game all the way up to the best game. I've got tiers to assign them, and I've got things I want to say about them. Let's get it started with the only game in the D tier. This is Blue Protocol Star Resonance, and while it looks and tastes like a gacha game, it's an MMO. I'm not usually a fan of MMOs, but a couple of my friends that you'll see throughout this video were looking at it, so we grouped up to play together. I'll be using this icon on the title cards to show games I played for their multiplayer. Anyway, this game was a waste of time. In 12 hours of gameplay, nothing interesting happened in the story, nothing interesting happened in the combat, and nothing interesting happened in side content. The combat doesn't feel so much like you are attacking enemies as you are pressing buttons and the enemies are being attacked. The story as well is a huge weak point of this game because it is locked behind a time gate. Multiple time gates. Remember that I don't really like MMOs, and if I do play them, I try to just treat them as RPGs. I enjoyed Final Fantasy XIV because it works as a single-player RPG where you occasionally look at other people. This game doesn't work in any genre. The most exciting thing we did was try to climb this big tower, which is not supposed to be the gameplay. Literally just play Genshin Impact instead. You shouldn't play gacha games, but it's a better use of your time. You can play the story and enjoy it, and then leave. I am glad I played Blue Protocol though, because it means I don't have to start the video with Shower with Your Dad Simulator 2015, Do You Still Shower with Your Dad? This is a better game, just not graphically. I bought it in 2016 for exactly 69 cents, and only played it this year on April Fool's Day. It's what you see is what you get, it's reasonably fun without a ton of longevity, but I think that's what the dev was going for. All of the achievements only ran 4 hours, and half of that is sitting under this shower, so really 2 hours of gameplay. This is the 100% achievement icon, by the way. You recognize it from Steam's UI, right? Look, I don't have much criticism for this small-scale game. I think it lived up to its ambition, and didn't go much further. While it is a shitpost game, there is real effort in the design, a surprising variety of game modes, and it just works. It's fun. I wouldn't rush to wishlist this game in 2025, but I would not dare sully the good name of Swids 2015 Diswid. A game I hoped was more ambitious was Rift of the Necrodancer.
3, 2, 1, let's rock!
I was a huge fan of Crypt of the Necrodancer, a really creative rhythm dungeon crawler roguelite. It's super unique and I played a lot of it, so it's probably on me, but I expected a lot more from the devs this time with Rift, when really, it's just a vertical scroll rhythm game. The gimmick is that it's very hard to read because the notes are Necrodancer enemies with strange timing coming down the note highway. And then there's also a few Rhythm Heaven style minigames for variety.
Double time!
I played the entire story mode in one sitting, as well as the rest of the songs that were available at the time, and that was really all I cared to do. They did go on to add a lot of crossover DLC songs, but I played this on day one, and I'm really not a fan of paying for individual songs or song packs in rhythm games, so I probably wouldn't have anyway. The songs I did play were fantastic, and it's amazing hearing some of these reprised from Crypt. Obviously, what a rhythm game needs is a good selection of songs, and on that regard, they did well.
Next up.
But I'm used to rhythm games that launch with at least 100 songs, so it very quickly felt like I had just done everything. I didn't play the very highest difficulty, but the process of learning to read the enemies wasn't very appealing. I feel like I had all the fun I could, and then stopped. Now, I would be remiss to ignore how great the character designs are. The game's presentation, the art, the writing was all around great.
Zoom for close-up.
The reason I'm keeping this in the C tier was mainly because of how little time I felt I could enjoy it. Again, I played one sitting of 4.5 hours, barely longer than Shower with Your Dad Simulator, and then I uninstalled because nothing left in the game was particularly compelling. It's a shame. I do think it's probably on me for having my expectations set too high. There's a good framework here, so I think another player could enjoy this. But hey, we're already onto B-tier games, and there's a lot of them. This is Ready or Not, a super realistic, intense, tactical police simulation first-person shooter. This is another game I played for its multiplayer. There aren't that many non-PvP multiplayer games with any kind of longevity, so I'm a little mid on a lot of multiplayer games in this list. Coordinating something all three of us would like just tends to have that effect, and I can't hold it against the devs or anything. Ready or Not suffers from a lack of variety. There's only a dozen or so missions that took us as many hours to play, but the experience is fairly well put together. The gunplay's not bad, the maps and objectives are reasonably varied. The main gameplay criticism would be its scoring system and how it's at odds with its weapon customization. First, I am a known hater of gun customization. Any game that lets you change your underbarrel just cares so much more than I do. I don't know, I'm Australian, I don't know guns. But this game supposedly cares about realism, so that's fine. But on the other hand, shooting any civilian or even a suspect penalizes your score. The correct way to S-rank a mission is to exclusively use non-harmful tools like flashbangs, so there's no reason to care about customizing your guns, because you're not allowed to fire them. Why have these two systems coexist in the game? If they cared about realism, they wouldn't be punishing the police for harming civilians. That aside, it is fun to just play without caring about the score. If you die, you do stay dead for the whole round though, which is always a sore spot for multiplayer games. Not that I blame them, but sometimes you just lose immediately and might as well restart the mission. It doesn't feel great, you know? For B-tier games, my philosophy is that if it looks fun to you, it might be worth trying out. If it doesn't look appealing, then I would say it's safe to leave alone. There's DLC for this game that we didn't buy, it has more missions that could have extended our playtime, but this game already wasn't cheap. This game was cheap. Unless is a short and sweet platformer that hasn't made enough Steam revenue to enable profile features, so don't feel bad if you've never heard of it. When I say short, I mean it. This achievement is effectively for 100%ing the game in under 10 minutes. That being said, I love platformers. I'm always comfortable just jumping around, and given that I played this on launch day, I may have had too much fun grinding for number 1 times on most of the level leaderboards, even if none of them stayed there for very long afterwards. And when I said sweet, I meant that too. The levels are pretty tightly designed, and I really like the mechanics for World 4. The achievements were fun, S-ranks were fun, a very solid experience. I don't think it's a landmark game by any means, but I'm happy to have played it.
It's Crash Bandicoot!
N. Sane Trilogy. I played the Spyro games as a kid, but never the Bandicoots. So how good are games from almost 30 years ago? It turns out they could use some improvements. In general, it's a nice platformer, starting very simple in 1 and getting just absurd by the 3rd game. All the extra movement is interesting, but getting the time trial relics really strains the game's enjoyment, especially with the limited camera in many stages. I could see Crash's moveset being used for a proper 3D game with a real camera, more like Spyro, and I think it would be cool, but I don't think the thin and linear levels are that suited to Crash's abilities. There's a lot of vehicle levels as well that didn't really hit the mark, and I don't know, it's a fun game, but it's not fantastic. I can see how this was popular 30 years ago, but in 2025, there's better options. From the intro, it's Christmas Shooting Scramble, a shoot-'em-up game from Orange Juice, who, if you've heard of them, is from their board game 100% Orange Juice. Said game is their most popular product by far that I've put a little bit of time into, and you get bonus characters there by purchasing other games from the developer. So having owned Christmas Shooting Scramble for a while, I finally took it off my backlog, and yeah, it's not bad. I don't play many shmups or danmakus, so while this felt simple, I kinda needed simple. I appreciated that. I've played one Toho game, and I didn't beat it because I do not practice. I do not study. I slam 1cc attempts on normal, and if I run out of lives, I lose. I used the same strategy for this game, and it's only 3 stages, so this time it worked. Yeah, the visuals are scuffed, and the unlock system isn't great. And it must be pretty easy if I started beating it consistently on the highest difficulty, which you don't even have to do, I just did it while grinding repoints. My point is, these things might hold the game back, but they don't detract from the core experience. In somewhat the opposite of the last game, River City Girls looks fantastic, and has somewhat forgettable gameplay. Okay, it's not that bad, or I wouldn't have put it up here in the B tier, but certainly doing the same combos over and over is not why you play this. Actually, now writing the script, I have forgotten the gameplay, and I'm kinda wondering why I put it here. Well, never mind. The soundtrack hard carries this game, and it has characters voiced by your favorite YouTubers. I assume. I don't know who these are, but I think it's true.
For starters, I'm pretty hungry. Go get me a double Merv burger.
Get in my dojo and fight me!
Something I do regret about the way I made this video is I only recorded my first session for a lot of games since I don't have that much spare hard drive space. The combat doesn't change much, but I think I'm doing this game a little disservice by only showing off the beginning. Please watch more gameplay as I describe how this is an entry in the River City Ransom series. Which sounds obvious now, but I didn't know that before I played it. And why did I play it? The Epic Games Store gave it out for free. Everything else in this video I played on Steam.
Oh yeah! It says, blocked caller. That's a weird name. Damn it. Of course it would be blocked. Oh, you know him? Come on.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. This game is worth playing for free? When I put a game in B tier, it means I don't particularly feel like playing any sequels to it, so don't expect River City Girls 2 in this video. Warhammer has a history of putting out co-op video games, and all of them manage to be games. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2 is by far the best of the few I've played. While it's still not outstanding, like everything else in the B tier, I think it was enjoyable enough. I don't have much to criticize, the mechanics are all more or less what you would want from this type of game, very solidly made. The executions were probably the highlight, they were both very cinematic and also mechanically meaningful, but the game is almost so by the numbers that there wasn't actually anything else great to talk about. It is a strongly mid game that grossed very well, probably due to its price tag. Also, sometimes the game bans you for using mods, even though I didn't. Awesome! You wouldn't know it yet from this list, but I do appreciate a good third-person action game. This is a rather famous one, and though I haven't played any other Metal Gears, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance seemed like the right one to start with. And right off the bat, Platinum Games knows what players want, to play the game in windowed 1080p at 60 FPS. Sure, this video is only 60, I don't think YouTube supports 155, and my hard drive certainly doesn't have the space for it, but I promise I've been playing the rest of these at 1440p and 155 FPS, just not this one. This is another game with a great soundtrack. I'm sure you've heard some of it. Take a listen to the lyrical section of Red Sun. No, the soundtrack is good. There's just some jank. After beating the game, I recognized that I probably wouldn't have fun with the achievements, based on a similar game you'll see shortly in this list. And that let me leave fairly satisfied with the experience. Just shy of 8 hours is less than I would have liked to play, but the way each encounter was designed led more to, phew, I'm relieved I'm done with that fight, rather than, I'm exhilarated after that epic fight. The story, aside from Kojima's uncanny precognition ability,
America great again! What the hell are you talking about?
is a kind of deadpan satire that leans very heavily into absurdity while feigning seriousness.
Africa's just getting a bit too peaceful. What?
Give War a Chance is so on the nose that it's cartoonish, so yeah, I think it's kind of funny. I like when they play very absurd things straight.
At least Armstrong will never be president.
Oops, yet more political satire. Having played Helldivers 2 for its release last year, it made sense to check out the first game as well. This is a very arcadey twin-stick shooter, and they expect friendly fire even more than the sequel. Starting the game, I was very impressed with how they just let you get in and play the game with no hassle, because there's very few frills in this game. You go in, run around the map, you do the mission, and leave. Every system is simpler compared to the sequel. The maps aren't as big, time to kill is shorter. It's pretty fun for a while, but it doesn't have quite the same staying power. Partly because the game allows you to unlock everything quicker, which is generally considered a good thing, and partly because the difficulty scales in a very unfortunate way. The biggest drawback of Helldivers 1 is the screen region. All players must share the same screen, and though we didn't have a fourth player, this is still very restrictive. It means patrols can appear very close to you, but off the edge of the screen and summon waves without you having much input. And the difference between not fighting any enemies at all and summoning infinite waves is so annoying that you basically lose the mission on the spot on higher difficulties. Not just that, but the limited screen region prevents you from running away from your allies to dodge. You get trapped in your own corners so easily. And these restrictions are of course part of the design, but once you die once and drop your weapons, it can become very hard to recover back to a position where everyone is capable of playing, since a lot of support weapons can only be called in once in this game. Despite what I'm saying, it is still fun until you hit that critical difficulty turning point. It's in the B tier, we're about halfway through the overall list, so the game is fun, like you can absolutely enjoy this. But the sequel is better. Next up is Haste, a very cool looking speed game. And for the duration of its story mode, a fun one at that. You might recognize this style of game from Tribes Skiing, Source Surfing, or like Tiny Wings. It's a genuinely cool game, and I was ready to put it higher, because it's really fun to play the intended way while collecting items with the goal of just reaching the end. I was thinking, wow, this is an A-tier game for sure. What ticked me off is the achievement design, forcing you to play without items or even the cool surfboard that just speeds you up because you basically have to run the double jump cowl so that you can get all perfect landings, and then avoiding all damage under both of these restrictions on the hardest shard. It's so absurd that I went into the assist options and just tuned them all to the minimum or maximum, whichever was better, and even then it was still so frustrating and just not fun. Playing without items makes it such a nothing burger of a game. There's no progression. It's like a Mario game where you play 1-1 over and over. The achievements were so ridiculous that I just had to downgrade it to a B tier. Do not bother getting them. And if you don't get them, yeah, it's a pretty cool game. I liked it a lot. It's a little short, maybe, but it's a speed game, so of course, the faster you go, the shorter the game's gonna be.
Devil May Cry.
5. It's the fifth one. I don't know why they don't say it. This was my first Devil May Cry game, and it was an interesting experience. Not the story. That part wasn't interesting at all, but the characters and the gameplay have clearly been developed over the 4 games I didn't play, and the combos and playstyles they offered took a bit to get used to. Like many of the games on this list, I only recorded one play session, so I can't show off how Dante has like a dozen different weapons and 4 stances on top of that. Like, every button on your controller, X, Y, and B, can be any number of different attacks by cycling your weapons with the D-pad and the triggers, and then you've got an entirely different character, V, who runs around on his own while the minions attack, and your left control stick both moves you around and also does the forward-back inputs to determine your attacks. And also Nero is here. I honestly thought he was gonna be the only playable character because he's the one on the box, and even he felt complicated, but he's actually the simplest character by far. I had fun playing through the story, and starting to learn and master the characters was quite rewarding, but once you get to about the 4th difficulty, it stops being a cool beat-em-up and more like a dumb Souls game. Enemy attacks do more than half your health bar, and on the highest difficulty they will just Oko you, and trying to keep an S rank up amongst the ridiculously aggressive enemy swarms was really not it. I basically rage quit halfway through Dante Must Die difficulty, and I don't regret it. I was saving Virgil's playthrough for later, but I didn't even go back to play it. My experience here is why I left Metal Gear Rising early. So why is this game at the top of the B tier? Because it was cool. I like going for 100%, but saving myself the effort was more enjoyable here. And there's so much stuff going on here that I don't think any other game will ever feel like Devil May Cry. Now, gatekeeping the very top of the B tier, it's Gatekeeper. Remember that cool stuff I said about Helldivers, the rather arcadey twin-stick co-op shooter? Well, this one's a roguelite, so it's different. It seems inspired by Risk of Rain 2. You can feel a lot of work put into the design of this game. It's quick to get into, it's intuitive, and the gameplay loop is good. Really, it's just a fun game, and my only complaint is that every new release is slowly becoming Vampire Survivors. Of course, I'm joking. I have more complaints. The melee character's kind of terrible, and unlocking bad items is a permanent nerf to your account, because you could just choose to not pay to unlock them and dilute your own item pools. You have to pay even more resources if you want to exclude the things you paid to unlock. If every unlockable item was good and every character was playable, yeah, this would be a really good game, but not super hype, and there's still a lot of better games out there. A late addition to this list and the first game in the A tier is Sonobi: A Haunted Day, a free DLC for Sonobi. First of all, Sonobi is an amazing platformer that I've never seen anyone talk about, but it was really fun when I picked it up last year. I would definitely recommend it. A Haunted Day sees us play as Major Song, a different protagonist to the base game with a different set of movement abilities and attacks. In the fairly short 90-minute story, you master her aerial combat and learn some of her backstory, since this serves as a prequel to the main game. It's short, so I don't have much to say about it, but even with this DLC in the A tier, I think the base game is S tier, and the DLC only makes it even more worth picking up. I probably included it in the thumbnail. It's the Game Awards Game of the Year winner, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. A game that dares to ask the big questions like, what if Dark Souls was turn-based, and how long are you willing to spend fighting an enemy you're far underleveled for? But not questions like, why doesn't Lune wear shoes? This is a big, cool, full-sized RPG. Each character has unique gameplay to keep the turn-based combat interesting, and of course, you fight for your life during the enemy turns. When an attack comes in, you can dodge it to avoid damage, or parry it with stricter timing and receive an advantage in the form of a counterattack. So naturally, you can call me Noru the way I parry everything. Even though I played on Expert, and yeah, I probably should have tried dodging more, but really this was a really fun way to play the game. I welcomed the difficulty. I fought enemies I definitely was not supposed to, and they weren't even as hard as the ultimate optional boss that I was prepared for. I got all of the achievements, and they were lovely. After complaining about so many other achievements in earlier games, this was a blast. In terms of gameplay, great work, they did it. It's here in the A tier, it's great. Now, to get flamed in the comments section, I have to talk about the story. The writing for all of the game is fantastic, and the overall narrative is solid, but the reason this game is in A tier and not higher is the execution of one of the large twists that I won't spoil. When it was revealed, it let me down and killed some of my excitement for the game's story. Not entirely, of course. I finished the game, and it was good. But possibly the most climactic moment of the story just didn't hit for me. Clearly, I don't think many people minded the way I did, and I'm very glad for you. But that wasn't my experience, and this is my list. It's still a great game. The storytelling everywhere else is very good, the gameplay is very unique and enjoyable, and the devs clearly love Final Fantasy XIV. To me, the most memorable quote or motto from 14 is, "For those we have lost, for those we can yet save," which matches some of the expedition mottos of, "When one falls, we continue," and of course, "For those who come after." Stick around for one final mention of Final Fantasy XIV in this video. It's been surprisingly relevant.
There will be a lot of fighting, though.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
There will be a lot of fighting.
Exactly.
Count me in then.
Good.
Good.
Tell me why you did it, playing Persona 4 Golden. In 2025 the remake's coming. 5 Royal, 3 Reload, there's better ones to choose. I've been told to play Metaphor as well. Sorry. I've loved the soundtrack to Persona 4 since I watched the original anime close to when it first aired, and of course the story and characters too. Generally speaking, I'm not a great fan of turn-based games, but I've been trying to play them a little more, especially with Expedition 33 being so well received, and having good turn-based combat. I bought Golden a few years ago on sale, before Revival was announced, so no point waiting for that remake to play this game for the first time. And as for why I didn't play the other Shin Megami Tensei games I mentioned, is because, again, I just liked the anime, and of course Golden is much cheaper than any of those. So how is the game now that I've played it? Damn, the story was still really good.
Welcome to the Velvet Room.
Since it's been over a decade, I did forget some parts, and of course there's plenty of content exclusive to the game, so it was still a fantastic experience. I can only imagine how much better it might be if you were truly blind to the game. And not just the main story, but the optional social links too. Even though some of them are for the dinky side characters you can beat the game without ever meeting, they all feel really genuine, and I was super invested in practically all of them. Nanako and Dojima's were probably my favorites. Even as main story characters, the side plots were handled terrifically, compared to, say, Yosuke, who is just a friend we have.
What about me?
Now, if this game had amazing combat, it would be an easy S tier. The story and soundtrack are just so good. So for it to be down here in A, it has a letdown, and that is the gameplay loop. First of all, this game takes place over roughly 1 year in-game, progressing calendar days as you do activities. Generally, you spend a month or two in Inaba forging social links, which takes a few hours, and then you spend 1 in-game day in the TV world, which also takes a few hours, depending on how much side questing and backtracking for optional objectives you plan to do. I got all the achievements in this game, so that was usually a lot. This seems to be the general format the Persona games take, so I'm fine with it, but it is a little unusual to do really long strings of combat in dungeons, followed by only dialogue and story progression in the overworld. I feel like most games mix the gameplay in a lot more frequently, and for the better. The dungeons really are pretty mediocre. The very simple turn-based combat is what turned me off of turn-based games in the first place. You pick your best move for the enemy you're fighting, and spam the heck out of it while healing off any damage you take. Boss fights are just enormous damage sponges without a lot of room for strategy, and since it's purely turn-based, action skill isn't relevant. I didn't feel completely bored in any given fight, probably because of the music, but this old combat formula is really the only thing that didn't age well for this game. and I don't know how much they would care to change it, that's Persona. So, a strange game to include in my personal hate tiers, because its redeeming factors are, it's a good visual novel and the soundtrack is perfect, but hey, I enjoyed it. Will I play the other Personas? Well, I mentioned it earlier, but if I put a game in the B tier, it means I wouldn't be super excited to play a sequel. This game, though, is in the A tier, which means I would probably welcome more of it. But maybe not anytime soon? This was a long game, and I played it over only 2 weeks to finish it before another game's release date that was only announced after I started this one. Since Revival is mostly the same, I'd probably prioritize the others, and I'd be surprised if I didn't get to at least Metaphor by the end of next year.
We got off work at the same time, so I'm giving him a ride back to his place.
Now here's Ghost of Tsushima. Cool game. I always end up enjoying open world exploration more than I expect. Maybe it should get tiring, but I'm a 100% enjoyer. You give me a bunch of little things to do and I'll grab them. It's always a lovely time to see a fox den and follow it to its shrine. Nice and simple, super easy, and it's one of many excuses to show off this game's scenery. It's a beautiful looking game, and they know it. Even the objective markers take the form of wind pushing at your back, guiding you in the correct direction, swaying all of the trees and flowers. How pretty a game is shouldn't necessarily be a factor in how good the game is overall, but when the game looks this good, it's worth mentioning because it does affect your enjoyment. The story follows Jin, who becomes the Ghost of Tsushima, while the events of the game tell you Jin repels the Mongols. The story itself is about his conflict between the honorable samurai he was born to be and taking matters into his own hands to do what he feels is right. The combat accommodates this, being stealthy is usually very effective, but running in loud swinging your sword is just as fun. Well-rounded combat, well-rounded story, I have no criticisms about Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima Legends mode, on the other hand, is a legally distinct product that sucks ass and wastes your time. I never want to play anything resembling Legends mode ever again. Ghost is a perfectly functional single-player game, it does not need online. But thanks to Legends mode, you have to connect your PlayStation account that you have to get all of the achievements. Could you tell this is a PlayStation game, by the way? Because of the trophies. The Ghost of Yotei. Exclusive to PS5. Wait for Steam release. From the makers of A Way Out and It Takes Two, Split Fiction is another co-op banger, a variety package that takes you through author Zoe's fantasy stories and also author Mio's sci-fi, constantly switching up the mechanics to keep things fresh. The game is mostly about the glitch, and also preventing the megacorporation from using the plagiarism machine that steals your ideas and creative output.
Let me introduce the machine.
All stable. The machine is fully operational and is successfully extracting all of their ideas.
It's not even a metaphor. Welcome to 2025. The cooperative nature of the Hazelight games means that most of the game is fairly easy, and you've got 2 pairs of eyes solving puzzles, so the inherent challenge is very small, but presented in this very fun environment where the players can push one another to determine the speed that you progress. The game's not very long, but if you have a friend, it's an easy recommendation. There's a good story, and plenty of really cool and really enjoyable gameplay. I'm prepared to play each new game Joseph Perez puts out with no reservations, they're just consistently quality. This is Velgris, an old-school arcade-type game about escaping, well, Velgris. You play as a space pirate named Alpha, so she fits perfectly on this list of Alpha games or whatever this video is about. It's simple, it's fast-paced, you jump and you shoot. It may not look as good as Ghost of Tsushima, but sniping an enemy is just as satisfying. You even pick from 3 items. This game was really ahead of its time. Well, it seems simple. I'm playing a different one. Jokes aside, Velgrus is just one of my favorite games from UFO 50, a modern collection of 50 retro-inspired games by Mossmouth, led by Derek Yu of Spelunky fame. Though most of them are much shorter than a modern game, make no mistake, there are 49 real games in this collection and combat ants. They're built on 1 or 2 simple ideas from the perspective of developers with no reference for what a game is supposed to be, but executed by modern designers who do. Pilot Quest is effectively the first Legend of Zelda attached to an idle game. Grimstone is an alternate take on an early Final Fantasy, and it's almost as long. Party House is a roguelite deck builder, a genre that absolutely didn't exist in our 1980s, the time period these games were developed during in lore. Variety is a huge part of UFO 50. It's 50 games. If I was on Steam, I never would have thought twice about a point-and-click horror game, but Night Manor is exactly that, and it's done terrifically. Magic Garden is like Snake with more game design. Seaside Drive is a shoot-'em-up that encourages you to move back and forth to keep your gun strong. I just like this silly racing game. In Not Crazy Taxi, crashing is bad of course, but going full speed recovers your health. Risk Reward is the name of the game. I mean, this one is called Onion Delivery, but Risk Reward does drive a lot of the game design across the pack. Star Wars Spear lets you spell out EEE for superpowered guns, but you must spell out egg to build score multiplier. Naturally, this is a tier list video and this game is a collection of games, so here's my UFO 50 tier list. This won't mean anything to you if you haven't played them, but keep in mind I did get all cherries on all of these, I just named the tiers thematically. You can see that not all of them are my favorite, but even the average games bring something unique to the table, an angle on video games that I haven't seen explored before. Fistel, on the other hand, is like if River City Girls didn't have a good soundtrack and somehow had worse gameplay. But the collection is also more than just the games themselves. They tell the story of the company that produced them. Campanella was a breakout hit that caused LX Systems to rebrand to UFOsoft, immediately making a spin-off in the form of the Big Bell Race, and producing more spin-offs and sequels down the line. Combat Ants is bad on purpose, because the director has too big of an ego to listen to his team. This is revealed in the 51st game in the collection. Am I lying or is this real? Obviously, I can't talk about every game, but even the bad ones are over pretty quickly, and the good ones are so fantastic, they could be their own releases. I count 32 genuinely good games from my tier list, and even UFO 32 is pretty rad. I'm gonna talk about Hades and Hades 2 together, since I played both this year and they're similar enough that it wouldn't make sense repeating myself. Hades is this game with Zagreus in the middle, and Hades 2 is this game with Millennium. They're both action roguelites with spectacular gameplay, where the first few runs seem impossible, but then once you get off the ground with experience and upgrades, you find yourself consistently clearing runs even on higher difficulty levels. Said difficulty is in the form of these pacts, increasing your heat or fear values by choosing which aspects of the difficulty to scale, meaning you can ignore whichever ones you find the hardest. Each game has 6 weapons, each with 4 variations, and this is where a lot of your variety comes from, where other games might let you choose different characters to play as. Now, every environment is fantastic, but this is this game's major source of monotony. In the first Hades, you fight through the same 4 regions in every run, always facing the same boss. You can enable harder versions of these bosses with the Pact of Punishment, but no matter what, you will be fighting Lurny at the end of Asphodel. Hades 2 does a great deal to alleviate this issue by giving you 2 paths to choose from each run, both just as long as a run in Hades 1. Each path is just as consistent as the first game, but alternating between them effectively erases this issue, since I only really got tired of Hades 1's route by the very end of the game, and that has to do with how the story is presented. The game's stories are both fantastic. Yes, I liked Hades 2's story, and they're told partially during your runs as you encounter bosses, and then partially by speaking to friends around the hub in between runs. Characters in the hub will also comment about how your previous run went, talking about bosses you lost to or victories you achieved. As a storytelling method, it's really immersive and I enjoyed it a lot, but specifically going for the final achievement in the first Hades, I feel like Nyx had about 1 trillion conversations to go through, and you can only hear one of them between each run. So I was literally doing runs for no other reason than to reset Nyx dialogue, so she would talk about a storyline I needed to progress. Hades 2? Completely fixed. Didn't have this issue once. After I finished, they even buffed the most obscured storyline as well. Hades 2 is an upgrade to the first in many ways, but since you control 2 different characters, they're both worth playing, in order should you care about a very well-told story. And something to mention about the stories, both games are fully voice-acted. Not the main story is voice acted, every single piece of text that is attributed to someone has voice acting. And to me, one voice actor stands out in particular.
Greetings from Olympus and well met there, sunshine.
No, not Colin Ryan, though he is the voice of Alphino Leveilleur, and this video's final reference to Final Fantasy XIV. I'm actually talking about Darren Korb.
Good to see you, Charon, mate.
And though I do enjoy Zag's voice, Darren is more importantly the composer on both games' amazing soundtracks. I was close to putting these in S tier, they're wonderful examples of modern roguelites, and they deserve the praise they get. And speaking of almost S tier, that's where we are right now in the video, which means it's time for the special mentions! Or maybe edge cases? Because I don't think these count as games for this video, but maybe they should? Please watch the 2 levels I played in Neon White this year while I explain. The idea of this video was games I started playing in 2025. I made an exception for Persona 4 Golden that I played 1 session of a few years ago out of a 100-hour game, but if that counts then why not Doom 2016? I played a few chapters of that in 2017 and only came back to finish it this year, but didn't record it. It's like B tier, I like it, but not amazingly. I beat Robbie Reeby in 2019, and this year came back to get the over 100 achievements I was missing. Amazing game, S tier, but it was just for achievements, I already beat the game. Should that have been in this video? Hey, that level was really boring, look at this cool one. Neon White is honestly SS tier, I love this game, which is why I was playing it instead of editing this video. I have some older clips because I need to talk more. Specifically about Deltarune. Don't worry, no spoilers. It's been 7 years since Chapter 1 of Deltarune released, and I'm subscribed to Siva Gunner, so there's no avoiding spoilers for this game. Chapters 3 and 4 released this year, so of course I had to play them. If it were up to me, I wouldn't be touching Deltarune until it was finished. What exists so far is great, I really enjoyed Chapter 3 especially, but it's gonna be much better as part of a finished game. I try to avoid playing early access games, but I just can't avoid spoilers for this one. Toby, please finish your game. It's good. I want to play it in a completed state. Okay, that's enough about Toby Fox. So there's one last category of games I wanted to talk about before I get back to the list. This is Supermarket Together. I played this for another channel I'm on, StoryCord, and it's not good. The game, not the channel. You can tell because just like Blue Protocol, the most fun thing to do is climb the big thing you're not supposed to. But these games played for videos, I really only played 1 session of. It doesn't feel right to give them any kind of rating or review. Pico Park 2 was pretty fun, but we played for 90 minutes as a race. I still enjoyed myself, but given that I'm 100%ing 2/3 of the games on this list, 90 minutes just doesn't seem like a fair crack. It only took 1 hour to play 1 round of Board Game Online. This isn't a good game. Is it even a video game? I can't put this on the main list, but if you think I made a bad judgment about excluding some of these, let me know. I might still make a video next year. Now, back on the list, we've already seen multiple Game of the Year nominees fall short of being my personal favorite. So, what difficult indie platformer could possibly be here in the S tier? You guessed wrong, it's Super Puzzled Cat. No, I'm not kidding about this one. Super Puzzled Cat is an indie puzzle platformer where the main mechanics are using these consumable power-ups to progress and making save states to help with puzzle solving. Let's talk about save states first. You put them down at any time with the Y button and recall to your last one with X. Double tapping deletes your most recent save state so you can go back further. Since this is a puzzle game with consumables, it makes sense to be able to use trial and error, and since this is a platformer, it makes sense to be able to checkpoint yourself in case you fail an obstacle. And you didn't hear it from me, but certain secrets even incorporate save states into their puzzles. All around, it seems like a gimmick, but it's just a genuinely nice quality of life feature. And as for the power-ups, I love the versatility and creativity they provide. The easiest example is the gum. In any other game, I would assume gum lets you blow a bubble to glide, but here it coats Puzzled Cat in gum, locking your movement but making her immune to spikes. And of course, very bouncy. The way it inherits your momentum leads to some cool solutions, so it's fun to use and, importantly, contributes to both puzzling and platforming. The presentation of the game, well, maybe it's too cute for some people, but it's very charming, and there's a lot of unique artwork around the game, especially in the shop. Mechanically, all of the menus are super fast to navigate, even from a full reset. Compared to some games that seem to have more menus than one game could ever want, everything in Puzzled Cat serves a purpose. The entire experience was tight, funny, and very compelling. And you might wonder how compelling this silly little game could be, but let me warn you, it gets hard. There were puzzles I simply had to leave until later because they felt unsolvable at the time, and I rarely finish a game session by giving up. I was thinking about solutions to levels while I wasn't playing, ready to head back into the game and try out ideas. Sure, I think about the game I'm playing all the time, but never in such a purposeful manner. After finishing the game, I enjoyed it so much that I watched a handful of streamers play the game too, many of them trying to solve all of the optional puzzles like coins on the early levels, before slowly giving up and only doing regular puzzle completions, before slowly giving up and having to skip puzzles altogether. This game gets hard. It has monstrously difficult puzzles, and it has devastating sections of platforming that don't allow save states. Luckily, this extra hard content is optional. I think with a reasonable amount of determination, you can beat the game's normal ending. You only need to clear 105 of the game's 128 standard levels, but even that can be difficult towards the final worlds. I have to show you my first experience with Nightmare Mode as well. This is the normal beginning of the game, levels 1 and 2. After beating 30 levels without reloading a save state, you unlock Nightmare Mode in the shop, which isn't particularly descriptive about what it does. I loaded into the first 2 stages and didn't notice anything mechanically different until... I promise hidden blocks aren't a recurring puzzle element. This one here was just so funny, I was laughing for like 10 minutes. Maybe you don't believe that I had genuinely more fun and a better experience playing Super Puzzled Cat than anything earlier on this list, but I mean it. It is an absolutely fantastic puzzle platformer. It's very hard, but please consider it. And just like that, we're coming to the end of the list. Although this S tier only has 2 games, the bad end of the video is just as short, and there were plenty of wonderful A tier games as well. A pretty good year, all things considered. Which means it's finally time to award my personal game of the year to... Yeah, if you know me, you saw this coming. The Like a Dragon series is just my favorite series of all time, and even though Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii is not the best Yakuza game, not even top 5, it still stands among the peak of gaming, in my very biased opinion. The characters are fantastic. In this game we meet the Rich family as well as the leaders of Madlantis. Yes, that's Samoa Joe. As a side game to the main series, the story is very self-contained here, although the setting of Hawaii and Majima's underlying motivation tie back into the events of Infinite Wealth. The concept of, well, a pirate Yakuza in Hawaii sounds ridiculous, but a huge strength of the series is taking outlandish situations like this and grounding them in compelling crime dramas. The main gameplay is a brawler beat-em-up, and both of Majima's fighting styles are interesting to work with, Mad Dog being an evolution of his thug style from Yakuza 0, and Sea Dog adding cutlasses, a gun, and a hook to the mix. A good amount of this game is fighting, and sure enough, it's pretty good. Pirate Yakuza also features naval combat, and while it may not be quite as fun as a classic 1v1, there's enough strategy at play to be enjoyable between ship customization and actual tactics. There's also a bevy of side content and minigames. There's so much stuff to do in Yakuza games, and karaoke is always one of them. That's a pizza. So although it comes from a very biased position, I did enjoy this game greatly, more than the other games in this list that, frankly, you might enjoy more. But this is my list, and my game of the year. Pirate Yakuza isn't the Yakuza game you should start with though, that would be Yakuza 0. Oh. Yakuza 0 Director's Cut is, well, a slightly expanded version of Yakuza 0, the chronologically first game in the main series, the best starting point, and just the best game? The 2015 original is right up there as potentially my favorite game of all time, so really, 0 Director's Cut should be my favorite game released this year. And I guess it is? But it doesn't feel right to award it the Game of the Year title. It's not even a full remake, you know? The Director's Cut portion is an improvement, but it's the Yakuza 0 part that carries. I've actually never felt so strongly against including remakes and re-releases in Game of the Year style awards until now, because, yeah, Yakuza 0 clears everything from 2025, and this game is just 2025 Yakuza 0. It's great for all the reasons Pirate Yakuza was, except with a better story, better minigames, more fighting styles, more playable characters. Michael Jackson, it's like 3 times as long, it's a re-release of the best game of all time. If that makes it Game of the Year, then sure. I think it would be too easy. Plus, I'm not actually finished with it yet. It only released 2 weeks ago, as of this video's upload. But I promise, this game is still Yakuza 0, it's still ballin', it's still the GOAT. And I gotta go edit this video right now, so thanks for watching. Stay gaming, and I'll see you next year. Maybe.